Devastation in Texas. Possibly over 100 dead, including potentially 37 little girls at Camp Mystic from floods in Central Texas. How? 2, the big beautiful bill and the characters behind the drama. President Donald Trump, Speaker Mike Johnson, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. What role did they all play in putting together one of the most improbable pieces of legislation, perhaps in history, with the former chairman of the House Oversight Committee, Trey Gowdy? 3, so there is no client list for Jeffrey Epstein, who did not kill himself. This is what I'm supposed to believe now from the FBI and the DOJ about Jeffrey Epstein. It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at foxnews.com on the Fox News YouTube channel and the Fox News Facebook page. Terrestrial radio across this great United States of America, but always available by subscribing at Apple or on Spotify. Make sure you set a reminder on YouTube or on Facebook, where we have been gathering people in the hundreds of thousands. Last week, we debuted on the YouTube Top 100 charts for podcasts streaming on YouTube at number 56. I hope you will hang out. Hope you'll become a member of the Willisha and continue to climb us here on Will Cain Country. I hope you had a great 4th of July, a great Independence Day weekend. Tinfoil Pat, Two-A-Days Dan, hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you got some time with your friends, your family, some relaxation, some fireworks. And here we are back together again in our new Will Cain Country studios. Yeah, you like it?
Looks great. Looks and sounds fantastic.
That's great. Well, welcome to the brand new studios for Will Cain Country, live from downtown Dallas, Texas, where we hope we have some bells and whistles we can start bringing into the show, including your comments, as always, from the Willisha. But I don't have time today to really celebrate our new aesthetic, to celebrate our new studio, because despite the Independence Day weekend, it was an incredibly sad weekend, not just here in Texas, but across the United States of America. Incredibly sad news coming from Central Texas, the Hill Country, where massive flooding on the 4th of July looks like it will have claimed over 100 lives. Let's get into it with story number 1. Flooding in Kerr, in Hunt, in the cities of Ingram and Kerrville, in Central Texas, including cities like San Angelo, has now claimed 82 lives, 15 adults still remaining to be identified. 27 young girls at Camp Mystic have been confirmed dead. Another 10 still unconfirmed, missing, and not yet identified. It's absolutely horrific. It is absolutely devastating, and it's one of these stories that, at the same time, I feel like everyone I know has been talking about all weekend. And yet, what is there that you can say? It's such a sense of helplessness and such a sense of loss, such a sense of devastation. And I think that's for everyone. You know, all across the country, you're going to hear people tell stories of maybe they had a daughter or a granddaughter at a camp down in Texas. There's 40 camps in this region of Texas, the Hill Country, Central Texas, up and down along the Guadalupe River. I saw Congressman Buddy Carter from Georgia post that his granddaughters were at Camp Mystic, the camp where some 27 girls so far have died. Said his granddaughters got out safely. He's from Georgia. I saw campers from Alabama. This morning I was on Fox and Friends, and I spoke to Emily Campagna, who said she was over at people's houses in New Jersey, and they were talking about connections to this. And it is kind of wild that it has such an impact, such tentacles that reach across the country. I guess it would come as less a surprise that this story and this tragedy has deep connections all throughout Texas. Dallas, Austin, Beaumont, West Texas. If you don't know somebody directly affected, you know somebody who knows somebody directly affected through your school, through your church, through your neighbors, your friends, your family. Oh, yeah, I heard about that little girl. You get an email from your school saying these girls were part of our community. Go to church service on Sunday, and you hear about a family who's a member of the congregation. It's just incredibly devastating. These camps in Central Texas, I just want to give you a little bit of context so that you understand. Almost all of these camps have been around since the 1920s. It's interesting to think about, hey, what happened in the 1920s that camping became such a thing? I actually thought about this over the weekend. Like, when did this, is this uniquely American? You know, I know it's all over the country, New York, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Wisconsin, Ohio, California. Every state has their, you know, deeply ingrained camp system. It's mostly regional and local, but people from all over those areas end up going to these camps. And I don't know what happened in the 1920s. Maybe education, when we moved to the, you know, taking the summers off, but parents to some extent then had to work, more of an extent today, but it just became a thing. And so these girls, for example, at Camp Mystic, were going to a place where most likely their mothers went, and not improbably their grandmothers went. And it was a big part of a tradition for a family and for communities at large. And sadly, and I think two-a-days you have some of these images you can put up of the area and of Camp Mystic. The cabins that the girls who are missing and who have been identified as dead were located were the cabins for the youngest girls at Camp Mystic. Those who were probably first-year campers, maybe first or second-year campers. We're talking about 7, 8, 9-year-old girls. Can you imagine? God, can you imagine? Can you imagine all these parents dropping these girls off? How excited they all would have been. Parents meeting each other in the parking lot at drop-off day. I mean, not knowing this is it. You know, never see your kid again, nor entire cabins of girls. And again, I don't think it's just a story for people who understand this particular camp or this particular area. It's a story for anyone who's had kids, you know? Anyone. I mean, like, my boys are in their teens now. Honestly, if you look back at parenting, like, I got brothers who have kids and a sister in that, like, 4 or 5 range. It's great. It's cute. It's also tough. You think about, like, what's the golden time of childhood and, honestly, parenting when you feel like it's going to last forever. All right. I think we've had some technical difficulties. I'm not sure what's going on, which I apologize for. And I don't know, it either saved me or saved you from me kind of fighting back some emotion on this story out of Texas. But so how does this happen? This is something I want to focus on for a minute. It's just hard to imagine because you think of yourself, everybody probably has seen a flood. You've had flood hit your car. You've seen it on a bridge. You've seen it in your yard. And you're like, well, so water rises. You notice the water rising, and there's time to go, to hit high ground, to hit dry ground, to escape. Okay, so first of all, this hits at 4:30 in the morning when everybody's asleep. Still, you would think there's an opportunity, but there are some videos out there that have helped me understand a little bit about how devastating this is and how quickly it can be affected. Let's see if I can bring some of these up here in the studios at Will Cain Country. This is having some trouble getting my screen to share here. Brand new studio technology we're still working through here. On your screen right now, what you're seeing is the Guadalupe River. And I wanted to show you a couple different things here. This is a time lapse of the Guadalupe River. And it shows you over a 30-minute period how this entire thing goes from a normal-looking river to a raging, absolutely log-filled, tree-filled, unescapable Imagine River. Again, this is 30 minutes of video that you're seeing time-lapsed. For anyone watching on YouTube or on Facebook, this is only 5 minutes into the video. You can see now we're at 20 minutes in the video, and it's raging hundreds and hundreds of yards across and flowing incredibly fast. It's just hard to imagine how quickly this happens. I think, so another river in the area is called the Llano River, and I think we have about a 2-minute video that I wanted to show you that shows you how this happens so quickly. But in this video, you see you go from a normal river. This is the Llano River from a bird's eye view, and you can see over a 2-minute period of time. Really, the whole video is 9 minutes from a normal river to something that doesn't even resemble. Washing out roads, washing out bridges, now hundreds of yards across and flowing. 9 minutes, roughly, to go from a placid, normal river to one that is absolutely rushing. And then I'm going to try this one more time, see if I can bring this up in our studios here. And this video is of the Llano River, and it's just 2 minutes long. But I just want you to see this part of the video that shows it going from a normal-looking river right now with rocks. These are rocky rivers as well. That's the other point of this. These rivers are all lined with limestone and granite, and when the water comes rushing through, it's just like putting your finger over a fire hose. It comes rushing faster and faster and faster. And you've heard interviews at this point of people saying they woke up with ankle-deep water. Within a minute, it's knee-deep water. Then it's thigh-deep, and you're swimming out. And there's incredible videos of people come swimming out of this stuff, but it's hit with what looks like a literal wall of water. Normal, and here it comes, flowing down through the river. And once it hits, it's minutes. It's minutes as it starts to rage. I don't know, that helped me understand a little bit of how this goes. There's a lot of talk about how much warning everybody got. I want to focus in on a couple of different elements of this. So the reports are that July 3rd and leading into this, there were warnings and flash flood warnings and put out by the National Weather Service. And people would have gotten a lot of this on their phone. We need to first address the idea that people get this stuff on their phone all the time. You get Amber Alerts, you get weather alerts, and let's be honest, a lot of us ignore that stuff. And no small part because you get it and nothing happens. So we can get a little bit cynical about these things. But by 1 a.m., there was a direct warning by the National Weather Service of a catastrophic flood. By 3:30 a.m., the city manager of Kerrville was reportedly taking a jog along the riverbank and saw no indication, no rain, and no indication of river flooding. By 4, it's beginning. By 4, it's now raging. The National Weather Service put out at 4 a.m. through their emergency radio broadcasting system, so you have to have one of these radios, an alert as well. And this all happens in the middle of the night, and you're like, wow, how's this going to be handled? You know, no one's going to hear it. I will say you would think camps would have these radios. Dick Eastland, the owner of Camp Mystic, died tragically trying to save so many of these young girls. I don't know how quickly in the middle of the night or if the warning system broke through to the camp. Something like this happened in 1987. 10 boy campers died trying to escape floods in the same area on buses. There was some debate about whether or not they could afford to implement sirens along the river to wake people up. It was downriver they had implemented that. In Kerr County, they had not. There's going to be a lot of blame. The worst of it's going to try to blame politics. But natural disasters happen, and they're called natural disasters because they are natural. We can try to perfect our response and perfect nature, but the truth is we're never going to be able to tame the beast that is our natural world. We can try to improve it, and I understand that inclination. And I also understand the need to grab the handrail of sanity. Blame helps you establish control, and maybe in the future, therefore, we can do something to avoid this. Or maybe it'll be a different type of natural disaster. Maybe it will be something else we'll be trying to grapple with. Now it's just a story of horrific tragedy, unimaginable for any parent, notably these parents scattered all across the nation, who now have to come to grips with this. There are stories of heroism that we need to recognize. Scott Ruskin is a Coast Guard lifesaver. It's his first mission. Reportedly pulled 165 people to safety from out and around the river. 165 people, his first ever mission. It's a story of a 27-year-old guy who got his parents and his kids and his wife out, cut his arm on glass, died in the waters. There's going to be stories of counselors who led young boys out at Camp La Junta just down the road, or even a mystic saving these girls. There's going to be heroism everywhere. Senator Ted Cruz said there was over 850 water rescues in the area. But it's just hard to escape the horrific, horrific tragedy of what just happened in Texas. All right, the big, beautiful bill. All the characters behind it. Speaker Johnson, Leader Hakeem Jeffries, President Donald Trump. How did they pass one of the most historic pieces of legislation in history? With Trey Gowdy, next on Will Cain Country. President Donald Trump, Speaker Mike Johnson. How did they pull it off? The big, beautiful bill. It is Will Cain Country, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, on the Fox News Facebook page. We hope you'll hit subscribe at Apple or on Spotify. Joining us now is the host of the Trey Gowdy podcast, also the host of Sunday Night in America with Trey Gowdy. He wrote the book, which we've talked to him about, Start, Stay, or Leave, The Art of Decision Making. And we're joined now by Trey Gowdy. What's up, Trey?
Well, I want to echo what you said about the really unspeakable tragedy in Texas. There's a verse in the Bible where Paul wrote, "O death, where is your sting?" Right now it's in Kerrville, Texas. I cannot imagine dropping off a child at a Christian camp, never to see that child again this side of heaven. I can't. You're a Texan. I spent 4 years in Waco. I'm familiar with the area. Texans are different. They are different. It's a different breed, and they will look until they find the last person alive or the last body and reunite them with their family. But it's a test of faith, Will. I mean, we talked about whether we talk about the complexity of water as an essential element for life. We can't live without it, but it is remarkably powerful and destructive. And it's complex. Faith is complex. I'm sure that there are lots of believers grappling with how to make sense out of this. So I just want to echo what you said. It was very compassionate, and I can tell that you were moved, and it's impossible to not be moved by what happened. So thank you for that.
Well, thanks,
Johnson,
man. I appreciate what you had to say. We'll get to the big bit bill. I just want to say it's, nothing I said is it's nothing you can say that I can say that feels like adequate, much less helpful. But you bring up a point that I didn't address. Look, you're a man of faith. I'm a man of faith. Trey, I don't know how old your kids are, but I can only imagine they're somewhere in the vicinity of mine, which puts us just out of this range of like, wow, this is right where, I don't know. It feels like your kids are always 7, 8 years old. I don't even care if they're 15 now. It feels like they're always 7 or 8 years old in your head. And sadly, these little girls will always be that age. But, I went to church yesterday, Trey, and listened to the sermon. Of course, this is what it was about. Everybody's thinking about it, talking about it, directly affected by it. And that's the thing that's underneath it. And, like you said, faith is complicated because on one hand, you need God now. On the other hand, you're asking why God. And, there's just no answer. Like, how can this be part of any really good or master plan? And there's just no answer.
There's a book in the Old Testament that doesn't get a lot of attention called Habakkuk, where the prophet asks God, why can you let these things happen? It's a very raw conversation between a prophet and his God. And I think God is big enough for us to ask him those questions. How could you let this happen? And I realize people are going to say that all things work for good. That is very hard to explain to the parents of a child who just died. And you mentioned kids. I got one of each. Daughters And fathers, it's just a different relationship, and you feel responsible for their safety. And
Yeah.
look, I've been surrounded by death. Well, I was a homicide prosecutor. You never get used to it. You never, ever get used to it. So I don't know what to do except in the book of Job, the people that ministered to Job the most were the ones who came and sat with him and said nothing, absolutely nothing. There are no words, but I do think presence helps. I do.
I appreciate that. Trey Gowdy with us here on Will Cain Country. I appreciate your authenticity. I can hear your emotion. It's not something you can fake. I want to move now to the big, beautiful bill. I heard you last week, man. I was watching you on Thursday, and you were really good. You were in the midday, and you were bringing up angles that I was interested in, and I was thinking about. And as somebody who served in Congress, I thought, I want to go through this with Trey. Just, not even is the big, beautiful bill a good piece of legislation, a bad piece of legislation? What does it get accomplished in border and taxes? What does it sacrifice in debt and deficit? But the logistical hurdle and strategy required to get this passed, I don't think can be overstated. Even if you don't like the bill, you got to sit back and go, how did Speaker Johnson, and you brought this up, President Donald Trump get this done? Because he's kind of the House Speaker. He's kind of the Senate Majority Leader. He's the whip. I mean, he is the reason this gets passed.
No doubt. Mike Johnson and John Thune may be two of the kindest, most decent people that are currently in politics. You will struggle to hear a negative personal word about either one of them. But the truth is, Mike Johnson cannot reward his friends nor punish his enemies. We don't have earmarks anymore. Aside from committee assignments, really, what power does the speaker have? Who does have power is Donald Trump, and the ability to pick up the phone, and people who want attention, and a lot of folks just wanted attention. They were initially they wanted the media to focus on their personal relationship with Trump. And I mean, if you go back and look, some of the more strident critiques of this bill came from Republicans. And yet they wound up voting for it. Now, why? Because what they love more than anything else in the world is being reelected. And his endorsement, unlike anyone else who's ever lived in my lifetime, his endorsement matters. So if he comes out against you, look at Bob Good, the former chair of the Freedom Caucus. I don't know what he's doing now, but he's not serving in Congress. So I think half of the 8 that got rid of Kevin McCarthy are now gone. I mean, if you go back to the speaker's race, Will, if you watch the day they picked Mike Johnson, there were 2 holdouts. They went off into a side room, and they got Trump off the golf course. And Trump had to talk to them. There was nothing Mike could say to them. Trump had to talk to them and say, you go down there and change your vote and vote for Mike Johnson. And they both did it. I don't know anyone that has that juice. And in the Senate, it's the same thing.
I had Tim Burchett, Congressman, who was a no, on my show. I think it was Thursday. And he's one of these guys that made several visits to the White House to sit down with Trump. And he did say something. He goes, hey, I just want everyone to know something. Donald Trump has this reputation of being somebody that yells and berates and cusses. He goes, not once is that what I got. I had to have multiple meetings with Donald Trump about my vote, as did a lot of the members of the Freedom Caucus, Andy Harris, Chip Roy. He said, the president fields my questions, addresses the issues that I want to talk about. If he doesn't know the answer, he points to somebody else in the room. And yet he gets people across the finish line, like you just described, like pulling them off the golf course. I'm curious, and maybe you know stories, Trey, like there's a threat underneath it. Like to your point, I'll endorse, you won't be reelected. I'll endorse somebody else. But like, I'm wondering what his style of moving these guys over to where he wants them is, because there is power. It's not all friendliness and come on, man. There is power underneath it.
I have sat beside the president at dinner when he made those phone calls. And he doesn't yell and scream, but he also doesn't have to, Will. I mean, you mentioned people that have questions about the bill. I mean, honestly, Jody Arrington can answer those questions. Jason Smith can answer those questions. Mike Johnson, Scalise, Emmer, they can all answer those questions. they can answer them better than President Trump. I mean, they're more familiar with the bill. What can they not do? Threaten your existence as a politician. So, I mean, Tim Burton's a pretty good example. Chip Roy's another pretty good example. Chip Roy has taken to the floor of the House and said dreadful things about legislation that he then wound up voting for. So why? Why would you vote for something that's that bad? Because you fear what's on the other side. I mean, Bob Good
Do
was
you
the
think, Trey? Do you think their concerns are legitimate, honest, sincere? I mean, you know the Freedom Caucus, and look, I know Chip Roy, and he seems to be legitimately very concerned about debt and deficit, and then he does end up voting for it because of, as we point out today, because of Donald Trump. But what does that reflect to you in your mind? That's the power of Donald Trump, that it gets him to vote for something that he has spoken so ill of, or that he doesn't really have that same concern that he's telling me of debt and deficit? How do you read that?
No, I mean, I know very few Republicans that are not concerned about debt and deficit. Jim Jordan was by far the most conservative colleague that I had, authentically conservative. He now is considered part of leadership. I don't think Jimmy has changed one iota. I know he hasn't, but I think the conference has changed a little bit. What's really changed, Will, is this desire to have your name as one of the people who is important enough to go to the White House. It used to be that leadership and the chair people, they got to talk and they got to interact. And now you can immediately elevate your profile with social media and just being a holdout. So, they get their airtime with Trump. Trump says something nice about them, which helps them in their district. I guess my point is that Mike Johnson is the Speaker of the House, but Donald Trump controls the House. And John Thune may be the majority leader, but John Thune threatening to primary somebody, John Thune did not run Tom Tillis out of politics. That's not who ran him out. Donald
Right.
Trump did.
Okay, no, all this credit we're giving Donald Trump, I do think we have to talk about Speaker Johnson here for a minute, because what he has been able to, with the help of Donald Trump, thread some incredibly thin margins, these needles, and he keeps getting it done. I mean, this is the big one, the big, beautiful bill. But, this is a guy that came in with a lot of doubts, to your point earlier, a lot of skepticism. He's got an amazing personality for what it's worth. I mean, he's an incredibly nice guy. It comes off really authentic. And I like him. That's the truth. I really like the guy. And I think a lot of people do. And I don't know if that's working for him or not and how he's doing this, but he's pulling off something that a lot of people couldn't in bringing this conference together.
Yes, I will say this. Mike Johnson voted for Kevin McCarthy every time you could possibly vote for Kevin McCarthy. Mike Johnson did not want to be the Speaker of the House. Mike Johnson did not think we needed a new Speaker of the House. Kevin also threaded the needle several times when people thought he could not. Mike, number one, is impossible to dislike. But Kevin was really popular too. So what's different? I think when they got rid of Kevin and they went through literally, like Mike was what, the eighth choice, the ninth choice for Speaker? Nobody else could garner the votes. He's incredibly likable. He's thoughtful. He's not a fake religious person. It's real with Mike. We served on judiciary together. He's a very thoughtful guy. But he also benefits from the fact that they didn't get much from defrocking the last speaker. So the threat of, we're going to hold the sword of Damocles over your head, Mike, what did that get them? I mean, they got rid of Kevin McCarthy. He's now really rich because he's in private practice. They got Mike Johnson, but they almost didn't vote for Mike for speaker. Remember, it took Trump to get those two guys, Keith Self and Ralph Norman, to go up front and change their votes, or we might still not have a Speaker of the House. So, yeah, Mike is great, but it still comes back to Donald Trump.
Okay, I want to ask you about Hakeem Jeffries. And how long did his filibuster go? Was it 9
Too long.
hours or just shy of 9 hours?
Too long.
Have you ever, Trey, did you ever filibuster?
No, it's called the Magic Minute, and it's neither magic nor a minute. I watched a few. Pelosi would talk for 15 or 20 minutes. Here's the thing, Will, you're a lawyer. Persuasion matters to you. Not a single solitary person's mind has changed during those 8 hours or
No.
16 hours or fill in the blank. Everyone knows before they go how they're going to vote. No one's mind changes. You can collapse. I like Akeem personally. We actually pass bills together. You can collapse. People can, use a handkerchief and wipe off the sweat, and you can get an IV. But the reality is, it's all theater. It doesn't change anyone's vote. It just gives Politico something to write about.
Well, wait, what are the rules of that magic minute for the filibuster? Like, can you have food and drink up at the podium? I didn't
Yes.
notice if he was. I'm sure you can have water. Can he eat up there?
Yeah, yes, for sure. So the way that works is there's a limited amount of time for debate. So if you watch debate on the floor, the gentleman or gentle lady is recognized for 3 minutes. If you're a really good public speaker like you, if you were in the House, they would give you 5. So the good speakers get the most amount of time, but nobody ever gets more than 5. I, I only got 5.
Okay.
Some people get 30 seconds, except the speaker, the majority leader, and the minority leader. They get what's called a magic minute. So you get a minute, but you're never going to be gavelled down. You can talk as long as you want to, which is why I say it's neither magic nor a minute. There's nothing magical about it. Nobody changes their mind. And
But wait. What if he has to go to the bathroom, Trey? Can he get up and go to the bathroom, or does that break
he would
will he
would
down?
need to he would need to yield for a period of time to someone, or there could be a parliamentarian question, and then there's the bathroom right off the floor of the House, so you can run in there real quick. Um, I am not understating the physical difficulty of doing it. Strom Thurmond filibustered for what? How long in the Senate? I mean, it might have been days, maybe the longest filibuster ever. So yeah, you have to take breaks. What we call sanitary breaks, sanitation breaks. But I don't underestimate the physical, you know, how grueling it was for Hakeem. But make no mistake, the audience was you and the media and the voters. It wasn't anybody on the floor of the House. Not a single person changed their vote because of anything Hakeem said.
A couple guys. Apparently, J.D. Vance said one congressman told him he was now going to vote for the bill because of Hakeem Jeffries. That he was a no
really?
before, but now he's a yes.
Okay, well,
who
it
knows
had
if
the
that's true,
opposite
to your
effect.
point.
Yes.
Okay, last thing with you, Trey. I saw you say this last week. So the Democrats, I think, are going to hang their hats on this bill. This is how they're going to attempt to win the midterms. James Carville's already predicting 40 seats, right? The effects of Medicaid cuts, whatever happens with people on health care, any government cut. You've even seen them try to say something to the effect of DOJ cuts affected Texas and warning systems and National Weather Service and all those things. They're going to run on cuts, and they're going to run on the effects on people's lives. But I saw you saying that cuts both ways because Democrats are going to have to play defense on what they voted against, which is more immigration security, more border security, tax cuts, and so forth. Who do you think who wins the ad wars? First of all, do you think the big, beautiful bill is what determines the 2026 midterms? And then if that's the answer is yes, how does that cut? Like what, in the end, who wins?
I don't. I think it's the economy. I think, really, honestly, Will, a month is a lifetime in politics these days. A week is a long time. This time next year, we're going to be talking about something else, whether or not we think we're better off.
Yeah.
Republicans need to be really smart in how they message it. I mean, what is a life worth? What do you think Laken Riley's parents would give to have her back, who was killed as a result of unlawful immigration? They need to put a face with the victims. They used to also need, it's a pretty compelling argument to say the safety net should not be a hammock. You shouldn't just get to lay there if you're an able-bodied person. That resonates with people. So yeah, look, the headwind is strong. The media headwind is strong for Republicans. But what I worry most about are playing the clips of Republicans talking about their own bill. So that's why you got to be careful what you say, because it's going to be memorialized. So when you go on the floor and you say stupid things about a bill you wind up voting for, you can expect to see those ads run again.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. Why did you change your vote? And answering, I don't know if the answer is because the president asked me to, is going to carry you politically or not. And I went with the president. All right, Trey Gowdy, check him out on Sunday Night in America with Trey Gowdy and the host of the Trey Gowdy podcast, which you can go get right now by subscribing at Apple or on Spotify. I always enjoy our conversations. Trey, great to see you, man. Thank you.
I do too. Will, I hope next time we see each other, it is about a topic better than what's happening in Texas. But we'll continue to think about your state in the days and weeks to come.
Well, thank you, Trey. I appreciate that, man. Take care. Trey, Baylor Bear for 4 years, knows a lot about Texas and the community and the culture here as well. Proud South Carolinian. Okay, let's take a quick break because we have new information from the DOJ on Jeffrey Epstein. And, you know, at this point, what I'm asked to believe and what I'm asked to dismiss is entirely too much. Next on Will Cain Country.
Take a pause.
We are in the midst of kitten season when baby cats can overwhelm animal shelters, but they're so cute.
Beautiful inside and out. They all have their own unique personalities.
Rena Lafay of the ASPCA.
This is happening right now as we are in, the middle of kitten season, when shelters nationwide are just flooded with vulnerable newborn kittens.
There's a real need for people to foster and adopt kitties right now, but be warned, the smallest ones can mean the most work.
Kittens under 8 weeks old are definitely amongst the most vulnerable population because they often require round-the-clock care and feeding, just like a newborn.
But if you've got the heart, the perseverance, and the strength, the ASPCA says these little guys could use your help. Take a pause. Jill Nato, Fox News.
Stay on top of the latest forecast with America's Weather Team in the palm of your hands.
Here's the latest from America's Weather Center.
It's Fox weather updates throughout your busy day, every day.
That heat's going to be out there for one more day.
Temperatures being 30 degrees above average.
Put the power of over 100 meteorologists and the worldwide resources of Fox in your hands with the Fox Weather Podcast. Precise, personal, powerful. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com.
There was no client list for Jeffrey Epstein. That is the new information coming from the DOJ. This is Will Cain Country, streaming live at foxnews.com, on the Fox News YouTube channel, on the Fox News Facebook page. We hope you will hit subscribe at Apple, Spotify, or just be with us every day here on YouTube and Facebook. Okay, let's bring in two-a-days and tinfoil for just a minute. How are we feeling? We're trying to do this heavy news story today to try to deal with this, but we're trying to break in our new studio. We've had a few kinks, a few hiccups along the way, but how are we doing? We even stopped broadcasting for a minute.
We're doing okay. There's always going to be growing pains, but it looks great and it sounds great. But hopefully those things will be isolated to just today.
Okay. Gonna have to figure this out. Yes.
We're good.
I mean, I feel like I'm sitting in a new recliner. Like my old studio is like, I'd sit down into it, felt at home, hit my rhythm. This is a little different. I've already unplugged myself just a minute ago by accident, trying to figure out, my tools that I have available to me here.
You're natural.
In the studio, but
just make sure you go as far away from the mic as possible when you go to the screen.
I haven't done that yet.
Okay.
No, you're fine.
My biggest problem is being away from home this long. I have to bring a change of clothes because I dress casual on this show, but then I have to have a suit for the television show later, and this whole thing is throwing me off. I'm really thrown off.
You forgot your two hats, though.
Everybody else. It's a whole new rhythm. Shut up. But it's going to work out. I think it's going to be in the long term, it'll be good here.
Absolutely.
All right. If you want to chime in and help me out on any of this information here, Tinfoil in particular, I know you're plugged into this, but this just came out from the DOJ. So I've got this here up in studio, and I want to share with you what the DOJ just put out. I'm going to read. As part of our commitment to transparency, the Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigation have conducted exhaustive review of investigative holdings relating to Jeffrey Epstein. They go on to say the files relating to Epstein include large volumes of images of Epstein, images and videos of victims who are either minors or appear to be minors, and over 10,000 downloaded videos and images of illegal child sex abuse material and other pornography. They go on to say they've pored over this material, but in the end, there's this sentence here. The systematic review revealed no incriminating, quote, client list. There was also no credible evidence found that Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Now that is on the heels, by the way, of previously saying there is no evidence that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, or that he only killed himself, that he did anything more. After thorough investigation, the FBI investigators conclude that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide in his cell in New York City on August 10th, 2019. Okay, so, that was a while back that they gave us this information, and it's one that is, plausible. Whether or not Jeffrey Epstein killed himself was told you should. This is the information that we have against you. You don't want to face the light of day on these charges, whatever. That leaves a lot of possibilities still, accepting the premise that he killed himself. Also, on the client list, okay, so you've exhaustively gone through everything, and you have no quote-unquote client list. Well, what does that mean? No official Word document? No notes app in his phone? No piece of paper with a long list of 100 clients on it? Okay, well, that still doesn't mean there weren't a list of clients, the proverbial list, maybe not an actual list, but a proverbial list of clients. And it's getting to where everything is dismissed. Now, there are those who are going to say, well, maybe the story took off on social media. It was never supported by the evidence. Maybe it's not as complicated or conspiratorial as you want to believe. But on the other hand, why did the Attorney General Pam Bondi come out just a few months ago and say all of these things? She is the one that has said that we have all of this. It's sitting on my desk. She is the one that created the heightened level of expectation of what they're going to be able to reveal about Jeffrey Epstein. But the line that is the hardest for me to accept, the line that is just a bridge too far for me, is there was also no credible evidence found that Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed prominent individuals as part of his actions. I'm sorry. That one is just a little bit too far. That's the bridge too far. There is more to this story, and there always has been. For what it's worth, the prosecutor that gave Jeffrey Epstein the sweetheart deal originally in his charges, minimum effects, is quoted as saying, I was told that Epstein is handled by intelligence, that he is an intelligence asset. That's why he got pushed in this direction. And right now there's a general hand-waving going on from the DOJ and, yes, the FBI towards all of this. And everything has to be supported by evidence. But evidence enough to pursue an investigation on blackmail? We know there were high-profile individuals connected to, involved with Jeffrey Epstein. We know that. We know, by the way, the relationships of Ghislaine Maxwell to the financial world, to the intelligence agencies of the world, and her fortuitous relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. There is more to all of this. And right now, we're being asked to believe, oh, what? Just a bad guy? One bad guy that did some bad things? No one else was connected to nothing else. Sorry, it's too much right now. I'm not saying you have the evidence. I'm not saying you're ready to put it out there, you have charges. But I am saying the way you've talked about this story and sold this story and where it sits today and what you seemingly find worthy of investigation is far, far short of the expectations set by you yourself, DOJ. Honestly, Attorney General Pam Bondi. All right, that's going to do it for us today here on Will Cain Country. We'll be back in here tomorrow. Same time, same place, same studio. Work out our kinks together. I'll see you again next time.